I'm Mark Scher. I'm the CEO and founder of Encompass Life, and this is the Wellness Revolution podcast. And I have on the call today my neighbor, which I just found out, Jordan Berke. We both live in the same town, and he has a company called RepOneStrength, where he is marrying a unique technology with smart equipment, from what I get,
Mhm.
to produce a software for trainers to really be able to get the best out of their clients. Is that kind of what you're doing?
It's a pretty solid overview.
Thank you. So, Jordan, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and what had you get into this?
Yeah. A little bit about myself. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate this. And new Jacksonville native, so it's always nice to meet neighbors. Um, yeah, you know, I got into this a long time ago. Basically, just out of college, I graduated with a degree in mechatronics. So mechatronics is the marriage of mechanical engineering and electrical engineering to make, most commonly robotics. And I graduated. I was training for a sport called powerlifting. Um, I had just won a junior national championship, and I was training for an open national championship. And there was this kind of burgeoning training methodology called velocity-based training. My coach at the time, who was getting his PhD at Florida State, was doing a little bit of research in this, so I had some exposure to it. And in order to do what's called velocity-based training, which I'll get into what that is in a little bit, you needed a device that can track the speed of a squat, a bench, a deadlift, right? If you're a power lifter. Um, and those devices back then, when I graduated college, were a couple $1,000s each. And I had just got my first job. I wasn't about to pay that. And I also had the knowledge of how to build one of these devices myself. And I thought I could do it for 20 bucks in a shoebox. And so that's what I did. I built the first, what we called open barbell back in the day, for $20 in a Doc Martens shoebox. And we actually have pictures of it being tested in a lab, this Doc Martens shoebox next to a $2,000 piece of equipment. And we open sourced that, put the designs online, and within a few weeks, I had some of the best coaches in the world contacting me saying, "Hey, this is amazing. I would love to put a bunch of these in my weight room for my NFL team, but I have no idea what to do with this open source stuff. Can you build them for me?" Back then, it took us 24 hours, a full day without sleeping to build one unit. So we really had to sit down and think, what is this doing? Like, why do they want so many of these? I was just a power lifter. I wanted one of these devices to train myself. What we had learned was coaches of all types in every sport and every level of sport were trying desperately to scale individualized training. You see, what velocity-based training does is it measures the speed that you're moving, and it correlates that really, really well with how hard you think you're training. And if you think about that, the correlation between the subjective and the objective, it's pretty rare, actually, to be able to have a really tight correlation between something that you subjectively feel in data that you can collect. Um, and so they were using that as a way to basically, in a weight room full of 50 athletes, uh, get individualized one-on-one attention on a rep by rep or a set by set basis when you might have a coach to athlete ratio of like 50-1, right? So we realized that this was something a little bit bigger than we initially thought. And that set us out on this path to create what RepOne is today, which is a connected fitness ecosystem to help, strength and conditioning coaches, uh, coaches that work online or in boutique fitness, personal trainers, or people who coach themselves, maybe who are training in their garage or training somewhere else. Allow them to get the same kind of attention you would get from having like a one-on-one personal trainer who was a professional, essentially a master's in data science all at the same time. That's what the RepOne ecosystem does.
I'm got my curiosity way up now, dude. So, so you can have 50 athletes in the room, and they're
Mhm.
each being monitored with your device. Is it tracking the weight they're moving as well as the speed that they're moving it, or to what level is this working?
Yeah, so first we started in velocity-based training, and now we could track flywheel training, and we're releasing some equipment soon in the ballistics training world. And we're in negotiation with connecting with other fitness companies to make their products smart in a bunch of different categories. But to start with velocity-based training, if you know how fast you're moving, you could tell an athlete to go up in weight, to go down in weight, to rest a little bit more, to rest a little bit less, to do more sets, to do fewer sets. Basically, most, if not every training variable can be modified with this data. Um, and so it enables what's called auto-regulation. So automatically regulating these training variables based on data coming in live. And
Gotcha.
it's mostly to your question, velocity data, although it can be range of motion data. It could be rep tempo. It could be rest time between sets. It could be velocity loss, meaning how fast your first rep was compared to your last rep. And that is a proxy for fatigue. And so there's all kinds of stuff you can do.
And you're not looking for somebody just to throw a bunch of weights really, really quickly. There's a target speed, I assume.
A fantastic question. So when people hear velocity-based training, they think I got to move fast, right? Velocity-based training is about moving fast. And in some respects, and for a long time, velocity-based training was like that. And I didn't create velocity-based training. It's been in the literature for a long time. And one of the people who popularized velocity-based training is a guy named Louis Simmons. He's famous for the West Side Method, one of the strongest gyms in existence. And he unfortunately passed away a few years ago. But yeah, Louis Simmons popularized it for what's called a dynamic effort day. So a day where you're moving relatively less weight, but quicker, right? Um, Now, there are more modern training methods using velocity-based training that say, you know, if you look at the physics, if you look at the math, you want to move in the sport of powerlifting or in strength training in general, you want to move the most weight you possibly can for one rep. That's really the kind of ultimate goal of strength training. So if you want to move, let's say that's 405 pounds right there on the bar. If you want to move 405 pounds for one rep, that means you have to put at least 405 pounds of force into that bar so it can move up, right? In fact, you have to put a little over 405 pounds because if you put exactly 405 pounds of force, you're going to be stalemated, right? But the ability to lift the most weight possible, it's testing your ability to output the most force you can over the longest period of time. And so if you put 405.001 pounds of force along the duration of the rep, you will move that bar very, very slowly. But that's technically the way you will lift the most weight, right? Compared to if you can put 500 pounds of force out, but only for 0.1 seconds, and then it drops down to 350, you're going to fail that rep. You're not going to get it out. Um, so there's some really cool science that says training your velocity down so you can handle heavier loads for longer periods of time is a really good way to get stronger. So there's just different methodologies, and it goes so deep.
So you got to hit that sweet spot for whatever the person is looking to achieve in their life, basically.
Exactly. So whatever their goals are, a smart coach who knows velocity-based training can set specific targets
Uh-huh.
to advance them in those goals.
Awesome. I used to lift a lot back in my younger days, and but back then it was slow. Make sure you were in control of the weight. Or
Mhm,
that's the way I was trained when I had a trainer working with me.
mhm.
So make
Yeah,
sure you.
these days, slow and controlled is definitely, it has its benefits. So in the world of hypertrophy being getting larger muscles, which is what most people lift weights for, right? To increase muscle cross-sectional area or just muscle size,
Mhm.
reduce body fat, be a little bit more lean, look a little bit better. Um, in that world of hypertrophy, time under tension is king, right? Volume, meaning the number of sets times reps, and time under tension. Those two factors are really important for gaining muscle size. In the world of powerlifting or performance training in general, strength and speed is really important. And so in the strength and speed world, you want to be able to be explosive. You want to be able to produce a lot of power, right? Power
Mhm.
being in physics, force times velocity, which means the higher force you can output faster, the more power you're outputting, the more
Mhm.
athletic you can be, the more explosive you can be. And that's, how you would shift your goals and your targets from a pure hypertrophy standpoint to more of a performance standpoint.
Gotcha. And we should do a lot of the negative benches and stuff like that too, where you put heavy weights on it and do a controlled lowering.
Yeah, yeah, eccentrics. It's
Yep, yep,
powerful stuff. Yeah, there in the past 15 or 20 years, eccentric training has gotten really popular, and I think only now are they really figuring out the protocols that optimize concentric versus eccentric, what to do in the concentric phase, what to do in the eccentric phase.
gotcha. Cool. This is fun.
Yeah,
So you have a pretty good sized company from what I saw. You had a big team with you. Is that correct? Or is it
not a
just
huge team. Our company runs pretty lean, so we have under 10 employees and mostly remote, distributed throughout the world. Um, We have engineers in Slovenia and Ukraine. We have New York, in Buffalo, and in Brooklyn, in Oregon. So, and we have our workshop here in Jacksonville.
gotcha? And you were saying what got you in it that there was this product that you could have used a long time ago was multiple thousands of dollars, and you
Mhm.
said you could make yours for 20. I assume that what you're doing now is quite a different product than what you could do for $20.
Oh yeah, yeah. The thing for 20 bucks, it was piece of it's 3 print part. It was a very cheap sensor. It was in a cardboard box. Now we sell them for $400, which is still quite a bit less
Wow.
expensive. Yeah, than the alternatives. And what we typically do is we sell multiple. So the majority of our customers are teams who buy, um, you know, a bunch of units. I think our largest order ever was 40 units across a couple weight rooms on a campus. And then the coaches would put a tablet on a rack similar to this one. Um, let's say they have 10 racks, 20 racks in a facility.
Hmm.
Um, and then they'd use our athlete management software to upload a roster, create all their workout plans, schedule those to the tablet, things like this.
Awesome. And then I guess they could take them back to a central database where they can track their students or whatever players.
Exactly.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah. It's a
Congratulations.
long road to get here.
What a cool idea.
Yeah. I mean, I think like most um, impactful products, we kind of stumbled into it by just, being nerds and really kind of learning um, what these coaches wanted. And we figured out a big problem that needed to be solved. And to this day, we're doing our best to solve it. But to this day, um, it's fascinating that even at the pro level, these athletes don't get the same individual attention that you would get going to your local, LA Fitness at your street corner and hiring a personal trainer. It's really odd. And we have seen, especially in collegiate, in pro, it's a little less common, but also still quite common that the quality of training on an individual basis is not fantastic because the coach to athlete ratios are still like, you have a football team, a roster of what, 56 guys.
Hmm.
Um, you'll still only have a head strength and conditioning coach, assistant strength and conditioning coach, maybe two interns or something. You'll have at best 4 or 5 coaches to 50 plus athletes, right?
Wow.
Um, and that's not counting, practice teams and things like this. And so if you hire a personal trainer, that's one-on-one. That
Yeah.
personal trainer is looking at you do every rep in every set and giving you quality feedback about every single thing that you do. And so there's this conundrum, right? How do you solve that gap? When you're hiring a personal trainer, all you're doing is trying to lose a few pounds or something, right? Trying to pick up your
Right.
child more easily. These people are paid to win games,
Yeah.
but the training still sometimes isn't nearly as good as what you would get from a personal trainer. So the coaches know this problem exists. The equipment manufacturers know this problem exists. It's just a really difficult problem to solve, which is why the solution that we have is relatively complex and it's taking us a long time to build it. But we're at the point now where it's really starting to pay off.
Yeah. And the pricing. I mean, you're gonna pay somebody what $80,000 a year, at
Mhm.
least, probably to be at that level of coaching,
Right.
or $400, and then have somebody overlook it.
What we see is uh, if you look at how uh, automation has worked over the past 100 years,
Hmm.
industrialization, automation, um, in the late 1800s, people thought that all this industrial automation was going to create a working class that stayed home most of the week. They'd work 3 days a week, 4 hours a day, and the productivity that's being created by technology would allow this luxurious, relaxed lifestyle. What we actually see is instead of people working less, they tend to have all these productivity tools at their disposal and are incentivized to work even more to be even more productive, right?
Mm,
And that's kind of what we see as the trend in strength and conditioning, in personal training in general. As these tools become more available, we're not going to be replacing coaches per se. We're going to be augmenting those coaches and allowing them to do more and increasing performance even more. And eventually, everybody will have these tools, and it'll be about who uses them the best to create the best, training outcomes.
fascinating. I mean, this is cool. Really, really neat. Really neat. Glad you came on the show.
Yeah,
So,
great.
who do you sell? How do you get your word out about your products normally?
It's the vast majority is word of mouth.
Yeah.
Um, So, our products, it's we started out in a relatively niche space in for velocity-based training. It was mostly strength and conditioning coaches of teams, and that's a market of 500 professional teams around the world, right? Maybe 5 to 10,000 amateur teams between collegiate or Olympic organizations or training organizations, performance training organizations and a relatively healthy market. Somewhere around half of our customers are individuals who are athletes, right? Or who are amateur athletes or hobbyists. Um, and so not a gigantic broad market where we started. Where we're going and where we are, more recently, is creating products for the general population. I think what's really cool is a lot of the exercise equipment companies we work with, they sell into sports teams and they also sell into garage gyms and into
Mm-hmm.
commercial gym. And so our products work well for all those markets. But starting off in a niche market, you get the benefit of great word of mouth, loyal customers, and that's kind of how we've thrived. And as we release more broad market
Mm-hmm.
products, we can now start to kind of benefit from broad market kind of paid acquisition, social ads, Google ads, things like this that tend to convert better on markets where you have the vast majority of people who see it might actually buy.
Gotcha. Have you tailored this to individual sports? Like say golf, tennis, boxing, MMA.
Mhm.
Uh, different types of training for different type of muscles used for those types of sports, or is it mostly
Mhm.
football, or what do you?
It's fascinating the number of sports that use these kinds of products that we
Mhm.
make. I used to joke that the only sport that we're not in is swimming because it's not waterproof, right? Our
Mhm.
devices. But then USA Swimming reached out to us to use our products because they train in the weight room as well. So, at the end of the day, I mean, I'm a lifelong heavy lifter, right? I think everybody should lift heavy weights. In fact, if you go on my LinkedIn profile, on my bio, it says you should lift heavy weight because there's huge benefits for longevity,
Bone
health span,
density. Yeah.
bone density. It reduces risk from falls if you're, elderly. The whole thing. There's research that shows that it improves cognitive health long
Hmm.
term.
Hmm.
Um, and so everybody should be um, lifting. So that's something that we believe in pretty strongly.
Awesome. And are there, like I said, is there different types of a program that you would work for a swimmer compared to a boxer, or you're still looking for that explosive type of muscle growth?
Yeah, so we provide the tools and we enable coaches to do whatever they want with them. But at the end of the day, these coaches know more than we do about what to do with their athletes. And so well, we create some guidance and the coaches kind of take it from there. And we work with some coaches that we're partnered with to create content for other coaches. But my sport is powerlifting, and so I can create content for powerlifters. But if you were to tell me or ask me what to do for a volleyball player or a swimmer or something, um, I could give you a guess. So, I would say swimmers, they have a greater requirement for VO2 max, right? Or their ability for their body to absorb oxygen, um, lung capacity, general cardiovascular strength. And so you might have them work on really high velocity loss sets. So it would be low intensity, high velocity loss. So to break that down a little bit, let's say you have a squat max of 250 pounds, right? Well, if you put 50% of your one rep max on the bar, which is 125 pounds, that first rep is going to move really quickly, right? Because that's half of your one rep max. You can move that easy all day. Um, but so that's a low intensity meaning low percentage of one rep max. So you do rep one, right? The name of the company, but you do the first rep and it moves quickly. If your coach has prescribed you high velocity loss, let's say you move the first rep at 1.5 meters per second, but you have 1 meter per second velocity loss. That means you have to keep moving until your last rep is 0.5 meters per second. That might take you 20, 25, 30 reps, right? And so through those very simple instructions, first rep velocity and velocity loss, I didn't tell you what weight to use, right? I didn't tell you how many reps to do. I just gave you those two simple instructions. The system takes over from there. It'll tell you to go up in weight. It'll tell you to go down in weight until you're right in that perfect zone.
Neat. That's, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, how do people get in touch with you, sir?
So you can reach us, contact at getrepone.com, or you could use my personal email, Jordan at getrepone.com. We're always happy to talk to coaches. We're always happy to talk to exercise equipment manufacturers, particularly in the athletics and home gym space. You know, a platform like ours, kind of an ecosystem platform like ours, is only as useful as the connected products that are on it.
Mhm.
And so we're always working to get the best products on the market connected so we can help these equipment companies make their products smart. We have the expertise, the know-how, to look and say exactly what your customers want from a data perspective, exactly how to make that happen from a sensor perspective. And then the software is already taken care of. It's already built. Our software platform exists. We just integrate it really tightly with that software. And that way, your customers can have, I'm sorry, you can have a wide variety, an access to a wide variety of customers who you might not otherwise have access to. Customers who are already on the RepOne connected ecosystem, or customers who are looking for smart products.
Awesome. Cool. So the best way to reach you again is through the website or personal email, or how do people connect with you?
Yep. Contact at getrepone.com or Jordan at getrepone.com.
Awesome. Well, Jordan, it's been great having you on here. I really appreciate what you're doing. Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome program. Makes
Yeah.
sense.
Thank
So
you. Yeah, I really appreciate that. We should get a coffee sometime too.
yeah, I'd love to. Love to, sir.